I decided to model in Texas for a year because it was such a like shocking experience. It all happened so quickly. Like my life just changed within like 3 months. I was in college and I went to a random audition for America's Next Top Model just like for fun, and my friends were like, you should give it a shot. And I was like, okay, I'll try, and it just all happened so quickly that like right when I got back from the show, I decided to, drop out of college, start modeling, and it just felt right for me to try in Texas first and like really make sure that this is gonna work. I was like, was that a fluke? Was that a dream? Like it was still so unbelievable to me that I sort of needed, to save up more money because like moving to somewhere like New York or LA can be really expensive. And I just needed more confidence too, even though like Top Model was of course like this awesome exposure. I like I said, it didn't feel real. And so when I watched myself on TV, it almost felt like I was watching like a home video. The first time seeing yourself on TV, it doesn't really feel like it's, on the CW or which is now, I want to say that's Freeform. And, meeting Tyra Banks, it felt like there should be like a TV screen in between us. But instead, I'm just like right there in person with her, So I lived in Dallas for a year and I started modeling for a lot of magazines, like local magazines in Texas, and doing the Fashion Week in Austin, and being in Texas after getting third place. It felt like I won because the finalists got all their hair chopped off, which was a terrifying idea. The makeovers are awesome. And like, I remember when I watched them before, even the idea, the possibility that I could be on the show, when I watched it, thinking of the makeovers, I was like, this would be the only time that I would be okay with someone shaving my head, because I could just use the excuse, well, Top Model made me do it, So like, I remember that episode when we were all getting our makeovers, I was so nervous because my dad's a hairdresser. And I was afraid that they were going to shave my head because they knew that, like, for me, hair is really important. It's like a way that me and my dad kind of connect, and we get to bond through him, like doing my color, which looks so bad right now. Like my roots are so grown out. I haven't seen and I haven't seen my dad when my roots are this bad. Like, people are like, so it's been a while since you've seen your dad, right? Well, people who know me at least, but, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, the fact that happened, almost a decade ago, and just like in hindsight, it gives me chills because, that experience opened up so many opportunities for me, and it opened up my perspective to the possibility that your dreams can come true. And I sometimes can sound really cheesy with people because I'm like, follow your heart, believe in your dreams, reach for the stars, But for me, it's so important to continue that magic that really helped me get started. If people didn't believe in me and like tell me you should go audition in the mall, I wouldn't have had the courage to do it myself. So it is really important to have people who support you and a positive community around you. And like for me, growing up in Texas, there were so many people who just didn't think that it was possible. And I'm not saying that was like in my group of friends. I'm saying more so like teachers and people who were like, oh, but like, what do you want to go to college for? And, college is so important. I totally believe an education is important, but what's most important is like following like what your passions are and like really acting from like a place of passion, like whatever like inspires you. And so right now, like the fact that we're in this weird time where people like are in quarantine and we're kind of like stuck to our own devices, like we have to really like entertain ourselves in a way. It's actually a really awesome opportunity to start listening to what makes you happy and just acting on that instead of like, what am I supposed to do today? What does society tell me I have to do today? Instead of doing that, go, what's going to give me the most joy? And the other thing about life in general is that we have so many chapters, and what you decide to spend like the next 5 years on your life doing, commit to that. I think commitment is really important, not only in our relationships with people, but also with the promises we make ourselves. Like, if you want to learn a new skill, you have to commit to practicing on a daily basis and know that the progress is part of the journey. Like, being just focusing on trying to build a new understanding every day, and like learning new information about the things that you want to get better at. And I'm just so passionate now about working with these kids, because I feel like I see so much raw potential. I see so much greatness in the future generation, and even people, that are like I said, who have finished a chapter in their lives where they've gone to, business school and they have a degree, which is amazing. Like, there's so much that brings value to, your conversations with people and how you see the world and what you can add to the world, as well as being able to say, now that I've finished that chapter of my life, what's the next chapter look like? And I think that's something that for me took some time to sort of reconcile with the fact that acting for me has been like the first 20 years of my life, and I'm coming up to being 30, which is crazy. And it's kind of like, now I'm like, what's this next chapter look like for me? And I love music. I definitely love collaborating with people such as Sandra with Delacora. And now I'm like, I really want to focus on bringing more awareness to the future generation and like lifting them up, because this, this time in our lives is definitely difficult. But when you think about like mental health and the generation that might be suffering the most as far as, the pandemic and what it's doing to their growth, it's this generation that's gotten, have to wear masks to kindergarten. I didn't have to wear a mask to kindergarten, even if they're lucky to go to school in person. And that's the other thing, is so many kids are doing their education online. And when you're sitting in front of a computer all day long, that screen time can really take a toll on your emotions and your well-being. So there's, definitely the awareness of like health and wellness, and taking into mind, like, there's something out there called COVID that we have to really be safe against, and then also something else called isolation, and how that affects our well-being. So this next, the next chapter in my life is really exciting, because there's so much out there that we can, help and do to change the world for the better. I'm just feeling very optimistic about things, which is ironic because it's been like crazy this year. I'm like anxious about, the politics and like the climate that our world is in right now. But I think, when all of this stuff is like kind of bubbling to the surface, it's forcing us to have a conversation about things that really needed to be identified and discussed and, given a name and given a place. And when I teach the kids in acting, I also talk about how we need to recognize the emotions that we have. When we recognize the emotions that we have, instead of them having power over us, we can let them go, right? So like when we get nervous before an audition or before any sort of interaction, instead of going, oh, stop being nervous, don't be nervous. Oh, why am I anxious? I hate being anxious. I'm sweaty. My hands are shaking. I can't breathe. Instead of like trying to push those emotions down, I tell them like, it's okay to feel that way. You should accept that feeling. And once you accept it, it's the same kind of with like a headache. Once you like, all right, I have a headache. Instead of like trying to fight that pressure and that tension, by accepting it, it like actually helps you release it, and then you can move forward. By instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck inside all day, I guess I'll just watch TV, and like complaining about it and just sort of being, submissive to the idea that I don't control my life. But instead I've said, no, I do have a choice. I do have the opportunity here to expand on things that I've always wanted to do. So I think the biggest piece of advice I could give people right now is like, what's something that you've always wanted to do, but you've given the excuse that you don't have enough time in the day to do it. And for me, that's been learning the guitar. So like, I've been so adamant about like every day, I just got to pick up the guitar. I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to learn something new. And we have like so much information at our fingertips that I feel like over the last like 2 months, I mean, once we got into quarantine, once we got into lockdown, I was picking up the guitar. And I think I got into this habit of like every day when I wake up, the first thing I do is grab the guitar. And over time, like I've seen, like I've progressed so much that it's like so exciting, you know, but at the same time, the other thing it's given me is like this energy of like things are moving forward. And even though it feels like we're like, you know, stuck in one place or not really like allowed to do certain things that, you know, I miss music festivals, I miss parties, I miss like hugging my friends and traveling and meeting new kids in person. And I can't do that stuff right now, but it's opened up a window of opportunity to grow in other areas. And my biggest piece of advice is picking up something new and focusing on that, and just like, you know, really instead of spending time like being mad at the current situation or complaining about it, do something about it. Like learn something new and just enjoy this time that we have, because you know, it's going to pass. And once it does, you're going to have a new skill because you've taken that time in lockdown to learn something new. I've watched so much Netflix. I'm obsessed with Dateline now. Like I am just like all over the Palm Springs movie is great. I've definitely put in a lot of hours in front of the TV. And I think that's important to remember too. Like, it's important to give ourselves a break and some like self-love, and not always expect ourselves to be like on top of stuff and organized and, you know, energetic, because this time is really stressful for people, and it takes some, you know, just deep breaths, relaxing on the couch, having some popcorn in hand, and just vegging out watching TV. I decided